pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Look at the minutes. Everybody had a chance to review them. Get a motion.
So moved.
Second. Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's jump right into resolutions then. PS1, resolution authorizing the creation of one administrative secretary, temporary position in Fire Advisory Department. Have a motion.
So moved.
Second? Seconded. Any discussion? Legislator Cascade.
When's the regular secretary leaving? February 25th. So it's just 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay, good. Nice.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, PS2, resolution awarding professional service contract, RFP 21, Oswego County EMS 911 Medical Director Services.
So moved.
We have a second? Second. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
PS3, resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Emergency Management Department, drone coordinator position. Get a motion?
So moved.
Second? Herb, thank you. Any discussion? Richard?
Yes, I spoke with Kathleen. She did give me some information on what is this person going to do? What is his authority as far as I don't understand the position because first of all I don't believe Joe and Sally and Sue should go out and buy their kids a bunch of drones. The next thing you know, we have one of them tied up in Fulton Water Tower. And,
This isn't what that
This is
position is
weird. I
for.
don't
No,
understand
and this actual resolution is, the drone coordinator position's already been approved. This is just a budgetary modification so that she can put it on a separate line in her budget.
Now, is that the best? Do we feel that's the best? Phil, I'll ask you that question. Is this the best place it should be? Is under emergency management, or
there was a lot of discussion during budget development last year. Should it be in the sheriff? Should it be in the fire? Should it be EMO? And basically, it was felt that placing it under EMO, since they work with all those departments in various capacities, particularly in emergency, that would be the place to put it. It could exist in any of them, but because of you didn't want to perceive that if it was in the sheriff's department, it was only a resource for the sheriff to use. EMO works with everybody. So the sheriff does too, but I mean, in terms of planning and things like that.
It kind of mimics the EMS coordinator in regards to EMS coordinator is a liaison between 911 law and fire. Same thing with the drone coordinator, would work with Kevin potentially doing observations of tower sites. It could be with law to help coordinate some of those administrative side of bringing the drone up and bringing it back down. And so it could be also used for fire to send it into that position. But it's more of a coordination, a liaison position, not an actual someone that's going to be flying the drone at the sheriff's department.
all right? So if we get a call, 911 gets a call, or whatever, gets a call, and there's a drone flying around by the nuclear plants.
That's a no-fly zone.
I understand it, but who enforces shooting that thing down?
They don't have to shoot it down. The drone won't be able to fly in there. The controls will stop.
All right.
Such as like there's
like a blackout area around certain sites. One is the jail, one is the power plant.
Jail too, like it can't penetrate it. There's a magnetic field above the sheriff's department, so it can't still sit up.
And this isn't, again, just to clarify, Herb, I'll get to you in a second. This is really so that we have somebody to coordinate all the different agencies purchasing drones so that they have the same operating system, so that if the sheriff needs them and the fire department's running the drone, the sheriff can still see what's going on with the same software systems that they have. So no matter who shows up, whose drone is available, who's closest, no matter what the agency is, they're intercoordinated because there's different companies, different software. So we wanted to set it up so that no matter who shows up, who's in charge of the emergency, all the information is available no matter which drone is on the scene. Well,
Is this a union or non-union job?
it's a non-union job.
No, it has no benefits.
There's no benefits on it.
It's a part-time
So we
position.
can hire somebody, anybody we want, or somebody with qualification, hopefully.
How many drones are we talking about? 1, 2, 3?
The sheriff would be able, how many drones do you have within your department?
We have 4 or 5, but different, some of them are aged out. We're moving towards American-made company, get rid of the Chinese stuff. Really, the purpose of this job is there's so much administrative stuff that has to be done with the FAA that between us and the fire department and the fire services, our personnel spend way too much time filing for licensing and FAA flight plans and notifications and stuff. It's an administrative position that's going to take care of that for anybody that flies a drone, any agency that flies a drone in the county. They'll take care of the administrative end of it. So it frees our people up to just be drone pilots.
It's a 15-hour or less.
And keep track of the changing regulations so that we're up to date on them all the time. Frank?
I just refresh my memory. I thought the EMO money comes from the nuke plants, correct?
This, however, will be, I believe, is a county charge
Yes, it is.
because it's outside of the radiological plan response.
So the plan for the resolution today was to take money that was put into our department funding, which, to separate it out so we know what we're spending exactly for the drone piece and keeping that separate from our radiological funding.
I understand that, but I just thought that but that's why I asked the question about where the budget money's coming from, because it's coming from the county, that's different. Because otherwise, we really don't have anything to say about your budget, because we don't, it doesn't come out of the taxpayers.
Yeah.
So that's why I was just asking.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, Herb, I'm sorry.
If you use these drones, are they capable of like doing air sampling?
They have drones that can do that. They're very expensive. I actually saw one in Seattle when I was out there at the National Rep Conference, and they have specific friskers attached to the drone. We don't have one like that, but they have that capabilities of doing that.
Because in the past, you gotta send people out into the plume in order to take the sample.
And they're coming a long ways with drones right now. When I looked at the one out in Seattle, it couldn't go in gusts of 24 miles per hour, which we know we get higher gusts than that here, and also flight time. So they've come a long way with that, but I don't think we necessarily have one that can do that right now. I do know that the utility has a drone program per se that they're looking at looking into more for that purpose, but we don't have any to do that now.
I think that'd be a good idea.
I tried to get them to buy us one. It was like $80,000. They kind of said no. Don't believe me, I looked at it. But
That'd be a lot cheaper than having people get sick because they went into the plume.
I don't disagree with you. And that's not something.
Let's not send people into the plume.
There
No matter
is,
what plume it is.
You do.
there is
If you're on air
actually
sample, you are.
there is an actual federal airplane. It's a smaller plane that we got to see when we went to a power pool down in Albany a couple of years ago that actually can do that specific for us. We would just have to request it through the state and through the federal government to come in and do something like that. So there are resources out there. We just don't have the monetary and the funds to put something like that in place and maintain it. So it would be better to leave that at professionals, I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to teach Fulton Fire how to drive a drone with a reliable piece on it and then analyze the data. How's that?
All right, any more
Just
questions
as an
on the
example, right?
budget
Yeah.
modification?
Example, they're one of our field teams.
Is there any questions about a budget modification? That's all this is about, this resolution. Is there any questions regarding the budget modification itself? Legislator Castiglia.
Just the cost of this position, I mean, I see where you're moving all the money for the drones and all that stuff, but I don't see where the,
They're under
It's already been
the
budgeted.
budget.
right, but I don't, it's not, it's not here and you're creating a position, so.
We're not creating
Positions
positions.
You're in your budget, you're making a budget modification, okay? And I know it's already been created, it's already been through the budget, so I'm asking, what was the salary going to be for this 20 hours, 15, 20 hours a week, is what I'm asking.
It's under our EMO budget. If you look into the actual budget, there's budgeted $25,000. It's not in that budget mod because that's just for the equipment.
The equipment side of it.
If you look at our 2023 budget, it's in there.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify my earlier statement, Legislator Castillo, I think in this first year we used ARPA money, not the county money to pay for this.
Yeah.
Get it off the ground, so to speak.
Nice.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? One dissent. Okay, PS4, resolution authorizing the creation of one permanent emergency medical services coordinator position in the emergency management department. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Seconded? Multiple seconds. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? One legislator abstained. Okay. All right, PS5, resolution executing an intergovernmental memorandum of agreement with iPause.
So moved.
Second, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any discussion? It's just renewing the emergency notification system that we have in place already. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, unanimous. Okay, let's move on to department reports. Why don't you give us an update on why we needed this position? I know we needed it, but go ahead, tell us all about it.
So this morning is a very good example. This morning we had 4 ambulance agencies who had deployed all of their resources. So we were checking with Jefferson County to see if they could support us in the North Country. The Syracuse hospitals are on diversion and our ER has 18 inpatients. What I was doing, what I'm trying to do right now is coordinate with the National Ambulance Contract Surge Ops, who is supposed to be sending somebody to Oswego to open up a bed when they transfer this person to Schenectady. So the field has become a lot more complex. When we scaled back this position, the thought was there was not going to be additional EMS education because there was lack of funding. Now there is funding available. Workforce New York wants to put together a program with us so we can work with them and have some of the individuals come through their office who will have funding available for education. City BOCES has also reached out to us. They want to offer it in their adult ed class. And nobody can argue the fact that our resources are strapped and we need to keep providers in the system. So we are charging fire departments or individuals for classes now. We've tried that for a year. People are willing to pay it. And we broke even. Actually, we were $6 to the good for our, so now we've seen that it can be sustainable with bringing money in up front. The state also has grant funding available to train EMTs. They're training 500 to 600 right now. We have too many things going on. We weren't able to host a course, but they asked us to host a course. They're paying books, uniforms, to like a set amount per person. So there is funding available. That is going to take a lot of coordination. And the field has changed in that there is not a paramedic on every ambulance. We need to look at AEMTs. We have not offered an AEMT course in our county, and we need to start looking at that. That means we need to get that curriculum set and get individuals ready to teach it. We're looking at innovative ways to solve some of the overcrowding in hospitals and urgent cares, like mobile integrated healthcare, where an ambulance agency makes a contract with a hospital, and when somebody is discharged, a paramedic will go out and do follow-up with that individual. They get a set fee from the hospital for doing that, so it provides reliable income for the ambulance agency and also provides good follow-up care for the patient, preventing rehospitalization. If they prevent rehospitalization, the hospital gets to keep the funding from their initial visit, and if they're readmitted within 24 hours, the hospital loses that funding for their first visit. So it's a win-win. It's going to take some effort to get that off the ground.
we have the resources to do that at this point? Aren't we shallow on people? We're gonna send EMS around to do follow-ups. We have the personnel and the staffing to do that right now?
That would be a choice that the ambulance agencies would have to make. We do have one ambulance agency that's in discussion with Oswego Health right now. So we are trying our best to bring more providers into the system. If we get AMTs on the street, they can do first line cardiac care. They can potentially free up a paramedic to do that type of visit. If we do a paramedic fly car system, which a lot of counties are doing now, that's part of that tiered response, you would send an AEMT and they only would call a paramedic if they need it. So right now we're sending paramedics on BLS calls. If we didn't have to send paramedics on BLS calls, then we could potentially have them freed up to do something like that. I think with that consistent funding stream, you'd see some better chance of sustainability for some of our ambulance agencies who right now, especially after expenses with COVID, our budgets are really tough. So my EMS time in my current position is supposed to be 10% of my time. My entire day today has been EMS instead of logistics of getting test kits out to county employees. So it's just an example.
So I just, at this point, I think it'd be a good time to bring up the potential budget for EMS revamping projects. Said that there was $5 million available in the budget.
That is,
Is it
that's
still there?
that's one of the governor's proposals in her state budget.
Yeah.
And so we're looking into whether our county would be eligible to be one of those pilot programs for countywide EMS.
So a countywide certificate of need, right now, as the law states, an ambulance cannot move into another CON, certificate of need area, unless they are called. So this morning when we had McPhee, Noka, Brewerton, and North Shore all out of service, we can't move an asset into another CON. They can move close. With a countywide CON, we could ask them to go to that area and it would be legal.
So is that something that you would be in favor of doing?
Yes, absolutely. Now that has to go through our regional EMS council and state. So that applying for that, making the case for that is an example of something that I would want this individual to do.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, Kathy?
Do you want me to further on the EMS side, or was that enough?
No, that's enough on EMS. Anything else? Anything else you got going on?
No, there's-
Well, we've been talking lately, so.
So, we don't want to take up all of your time, but, so, some of the other things we're working on is, we're still supporting the COVID response. We do a lot of staff planning, the clinics, we're still doing the planning, the logistics side of it. When we get equipment in or supplies, we're putting them back out as much as we can. We have distribution plans that we try to stay with. We're still working to meet our requirements that are in our planning requirements for our radiological plan too. So we do have an off-year exercise coming up. So for those of you that have participated in the past, October 25th, 2022 will be our next FEMA, or it's our off-year exercise, so the state comes in and evaluates it. So it's a practice year. So fortunately this year, we still have Chairman Weatherup and Vice Chairman Lockwood, who have both played those positions before within our EOC. So that's good that we don't have to train someone new, but Mark, you might be welcome down to see what that action looks like. Be a good training.
Certainly be there.
So we're excited about that because we brought Search and Rescue in as a field team for us this year. They're going through training this coming weekend, so we'd like to put them into that exercise to see if they can test the water on that too. So now we'll have 3 different field teams that you can choose from. So it'll give your sheriff's department a little breathing room because they play with us as well as a field team. So we have some more options out there. We thought it was a good way to support Search and Rescue and give them some additional funding into their department. So other than that, I guess I'll leave it at that for now. How's that?
Okay, any questions for her?
What date was that?
October 25th. It's a Tuesday. It will be with Fitzpatrick Nuclear Power Plant. And then next year, we would have 2 exercises, a practice and a federal evaluated exercise.
And you'll remind us as we get closer.
There you go. Maybe this time I'll send out a calendar invite, so it gets put on the calendar
That'd be
instead of
great.
just so they're good opportunities to see what happens, especially in the off years when we're not being graded by FEMA. Gives us a little bit of leeway of how we want to run an exercise and what we want to do. So we're going to start our planning initiative with that.
Okay, thank you. Probation?
Thanks. I don't really have a lot to add to the report that I submitted already. Our numbers are staying pretty stable. They're still a little bit lower than we were pre-COVID. So I have a couple positions that we've chosen not to fill at this point just because we don't really need the staff. We're going to kind of monitor and see how the supervision numbers go. Is there any specific updates about anything?
Personnel, you're doing all right with them right now? Okay. All right. Fire, let's move on to Shane.
Before you, I gave you the year-end totals for 2021. The office had 196 structure fires. Unfortunately, 3 of those fires resulted in 4 fatalities. We did 253 fire coordinator responses. Hazmat team responded to 17 incidences. Fire investigation team responded to 24, and the dive team acknowledged or responded to 23 incidents for the year. Training was set up first part of the year with state fire instructors. Those classes are listed below. And as more stuff comes in, those dates will be adding more stuff to the calendar for the year. One point I wanted to make sure I bring up, the Cascade Truck. That's the mobile air vehicle that we use on the fire scene or a dive incident to fill the air cylinders that the firefighters wear. That went out for repair, just got it back last week. That was about $6,000 in repairs. Quite substantial. It needed all new brakes, front and rear drums. I had a couple broken brake lines. The rear leaf springs were bad. So I'm in the process of looking at replacing that. I've met with some distributors of chassis, and it doesn't look good. When I met with them last week, and they stated that if I ordered it today, it's an 18th-month delivery before the chassis even show up. So I'm trying to expedite that, get pricing so I can move that forward.
So we just paid $6,000 to have it repaired. Is it functional
Yes.
at present? So you have a truck as of right now, but it
Correct.
needs to be replaced.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
It's a 21-year-old vehicle right now.
Understood. Just getting broken in.
For that price tag, it's broken, that's right. That's all I have.
Has to do with the distribution plan that we have in place.
Yep.
Are the volunteer fire departments prepared to do the distributions?
Yeah,
The
so,
ones that got back to you, because
so
I know
when-
everybody's dying for manpower.
so when we first originally, there was talk of us getting a shipment from the state. I sent out a group email to all the chiefs across the county. I had 6 or 8 departments jump right on and say, yep, they're all in favor. They know how to distribute only because they'll do large scale chicken barbecues or something.
Sure.
So they've got plans already in place. We just got to provide them with the stuff. So I followed up. Renee had contacted me last week and asked, gave me kind of an update of what was happening. And she said, is everybody still playing? And I said, yes. So as soon as we get them, we'll get them rolled out and we'll help out.
All right, one more question for you. We did this big survey, right? Fire did on how to retain people, why
Yes.
people are leaving,
Yep.
and how did it turn out? What's the
There was
answer to
it was a
this conundrum?
the chairman of the committee brought some of that information back last week. It wasn't complete yet.
Okay.
I think he said he's had 112 or 17 responses so far. So all the data's not in yet, but he was working on tallying all that up to present.
Okay. Any questions for fire? Thank you. 911.
So real quick, just a couple highlights from the monthly report. This is just from December. The year-end report, I was having some problems with our phone system, which we're upgrading here in the next couple months. So couldn't get the year-to-date done, but I'll have that for you next month.
Biggest thing, our calls answered within 10 seconds. We're at 80%. Continues to show our low staffing. We have, since, people that are new to the committee, 911's been short-staffed now for a little over a year, extremely short-staffed over the past 7 to 8 months. We're down a total of 7 total full-time telecommunicators, which is an entire shift because we're staffed at 7, and 2 part-time telecommunicators. Since that time in the beginning of January, we have had 2 telecommunicators come out of training, so that reduced it down to 5 that we were short, and we just, as of Monday, started 2 provisional telecommunicators, which they will be coming out of their recruit academy May-ish time frame, beginning and somewhere in there. We're trying to shorten the time frame since we're used to classes of 4 or 5, and breaking it down to 5 or 2. Makes it a little bit quicker and a little bit more streamlined for us. So those 2 people, we are kind of crossing our fingers, hoping that they pass the telecommunicator exam and that they pass the typing exam, because unfortunately if they don't, we won't be able to keep them. But we believe we have 2 very good candidates in there right now. And that will leave us, after those 2, that we'll still have 3 full-time and 2 part-time positions that are vacant, which we will be waiting for the exam. I know we had 16 people total signed up. I believe 14 showed up out of the 16 that were on the list to actually take the exam. Well, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. So very, very low numbers continue to sign up for the telecommunicator exam. Onondaga County did a big press release, and we're looking for people because they didn't have enough people signed up for the exam, they felt, and they were at 130 people that were signed up at that point in time. So just to show a comparison.
Which brings me to a question for you. Do you think us promoting these jobs a little bit more would help increase those numbers? Getting the word
We
out
can try.
better?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that 911's fighting right at the moment is our starting rate difference from our neighboring counties. So Onondaga County is starting at 24 and change per hour. Cayuga and Jefferson are at $23 and 20 cents, 30 cents, somewhere in there. We're starting at, I think, is $18.63. So we're $5 an hour lower than 3 out of our 5 counties that we border with. So
These are union positions, right?
correct.
So that would have to be done through collective bargaining.
Correct. So, which I know an agreement was just made, but unfortunately, nothing additional was done for 911 outside of, they will benefit from the increase in the shift differential going from 50 cents to $1. That definitely helps for nights and weekends. But it's still, those other counties are seeing that as well. So, we're not where we want to be as far as being able to answer phones as quickly as possible, but that also is being impacted immensely by our drastic increase in call volume. Our call volume numbers are off the charts. Just overall from December, we're looking at a 22% increase from December of 2019, a 15% increase over 2020. We are just in general taking so many more calls than we ever had before, and I'll say probably 50% of those additional calls that we're getting are valid calls, but the other 50% are calls that really 911 shouldn't be getting, and we shouldn't have to dispatch people to, but that's what we do. We're sending ambulances that we don't have to go take care of and transport people to the hospital that are more than capable of getting in their own vehicle and driving themselves. Law enforcement is busier dealing with things that we've never had to deal with before, and there's no real clear answer on why, but it's definitely, the workload is extreme at this point. We used to have valleys and peaks, and it just pretty much just picks up about 9 o'clock in the morning and just continues on until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So we've got that going on. That is keeping things very busy for the dispatch floor. Really about that, everything else is pretty much noted on here, so that's it for the report. I would like to make sure we talk about the tow law though.
Yeah, I was going to ask that next.
So, okay.
Everybody had an opportunity, it's in your packets, to review the Oswego County toll law proposed. So, why don't you-
So this toll system really has been, it's been broken for quite a few years. It was not functioning the way that it should appropriately when I came on board, and really wasn't anything that I can blame previous administration for, but there isn't a great way to do this. So Sheriff and I have spent a lot of time working on it. Our 911 Policy Review Advisory Committee has been talking about this since the beginning of 2019. We've been working on trying to come up with something it's big. There's a lot of aspects to it. We think we've got it down to a workable, functional process right now that we could move forward with. So some of the issues that we're seeing, as far as the 911 side, our main purpose of putting together a toll list is to try and have identified respectable businesses that are able to respond in a reasonable amount of time. Obviously, weather, takes out of the equation, a whole other aspect of it. But standard day, looking to try and get a tow truck, flatbed, whatever type of vehicle, tow vehicle, out to an incident of some kind as quickly as possible to free up the law unit, to free up the rescue, the fire units, to get those units off the side of the road as quickly as possible from the 911 aspect. From there, law enforcement has been running into some major issues for requests for tow that they have made, because how this particular program works that we're talking about is 911 creates a list, we keep that list, we define locations based off of certain criteria, and then law enforcement agents that are out at a traffic stop and make an arrest, or at a motor vehicle accident, they'll request 911 to find the next closest tow company. We will put it into CAD. CAD will suggest the next closest by drive time. And so essentially law enforcement is making this request on behalf of this person's, on behalf of this person, and they're getting a tow operator that'll come out and winch them out, from the side of the road. They can drive the vehicle, but they won't let the vehicle release until they pay them cash. Or it's a vehicle that's not towable, and they'll tow the vehicle to their tow yard and then won't release it for a few days, and they'll charge them $600 or $700 for a tow that they may have literally driven, towed them 2 or 3 miles. So there's some major, I would call it price gouging. I don't know, Sheriff, if you have a better word for that, but
That's accurate.
it's been a major issue from the law enforcement side that they've been getting a lot of complaints about on the pricing aspect of things. And then from both sides, we want to make sure the job is done safely. So some of these tow operators that are out there doing the job, they aren't wearing vests, they aren't wearing bright colors. Some of their trucks don't have lighting, the appropriate lighting. They're not carrying the stuff that they need for the fire service in order to, clear up the incident and clean up road debris and stuff appropriately within, if it's a major spill of some kind, then we have a hazmat team that will call. But standard, leaking oil or something like that should be able to be resolved by the tow operator. So this addresses all of that. This package. We went back and forth for a long time. Can we include pricing? Can we not include pricing? Law enforcement has really insisted that the pricing portion of this needs to be included because of that price gouging that's going on, and it's making the law enforcement agencies look bad when, here, I'll call a tow truck for you, but it's going to cost you $700, even though I know they just took it around the corner. So we're trying to address all of those items. We have, like I said, we started this really at the beginning of 2019. We have been in contact with tow companies.
How many tow companies?
We had 4 tow companies, 5 tow companies come in and meet down in the sheriff's office the end of December, or in December of 2021, and they had reviewed the document. They brought back some feedback. We reviewed the rates and stuff and talked about how to try and streamline those, because some of them like to go down through and every little thing is detailed, and that's where they start making the extra dollars here and there. Others like to say, this is how much it costs to tow. I'm going to cover all this stuff unless there's something crazy. If there's something crazy in here, then we can, is there a means we can charge extra? So I believe we've captured both sides of that. to try and meet that, and at least those 5 operators were in agreement with the package as we have it right here. There are absolutely going to be some that are going to be very upset at this. Those are the ones that are towing those cars, 2 or 3 miles and then charging $700 for a tow.
And then how do we ensure compliance?
So the big thing with compliance is the current tow, now on tow list, I currently have no way to remove somebody from the list. So the big thing with this, it would be a violation of the law, the local law of the county, but it would also give me the teeth to actually remove them from the list. So law enforcement agents call, they would no longer be on that list to get those calls. And we do a decent amount of those, that it is an actual impact in the pocket.
Okay. And we'll have like a suspension period or something like that.
Correct, yes, that is built into there.
Give them a chance to.
Correct.
And get it right.
Yep.
Are we unique in terms of a county proposing this, or are there other counties that have done a similar sort of law?
Not law, but Onondaga County, they have a tow rate and tow list for the city of Syracuse, and they have a tow rate and a tow list for the county, that the county works off of. Jefferson County has some identified rates that they work off of. They haven't gone into the detail that we have, but they have the same exact complaints that we have. The New York State Police have also been involved with this as well, trying to provide feedback. And that those have been the 2 that we've really been pushing off of, for information on that.
Great. So I guess the other question is going to be, I don't know how many tow companies we have in the county, how many you use, but how do we ensure that,
How many?
There's 36 currently on the list.
Wow.
do we have some sort of system in place where we're not, I don't know, let's say your brother-in-law's got a tow company, so you keep calling your brother-in-law's truck.
Yeah.
We have a rotation system in place that ensures that
So-
if we're spreading this out amongst all of them, that's all.
So we're not, Sheriff and I have talked about doing a rotation. The way we currently have the program set up and the way we plan on it at the moment is to continue with the closest location, but getting an actual legitimate location is the big thing. Right now, we do have some tow locations that I know that there is never a tow truck there. So we're calling these tow operators saying, hey, I need you to tow off of 81, and it says that you're the closest, are you available? Yeah, we're available, but they're coming from, 10, 15 miles away, which this is going to resolve that for the time being. So, we also are putting in a program that the Sheriff's Office and 911 are going to work together on, with actually putting decals on the actual trucks. Because another issue that we have is we will call up tow company 1, and a tow truck from tow company 3 shows up to take that tow.
Right.
So we're going to try and make it so we call tow company 1 because they're the ones that are actually responsible for this territory, and this should be their call, and they're the ones that are receiving. Now, if they decide to turn it over, then they need to call 911 back and let us know, so that way we can update that. And then the law enforcement agencies are going to start paying attention to which trucks are actually showing up and making sure that they have the decal appropriate.
Do we need a law that I'm concerned about setting the rates in the law itself? Maybe we could just have something, and I'm just spitballing here, something in place where we set forth a policy, and if you want to tow for us, for the county or for 911 or for the police, that you abide by this policy and these rates. That way you can adjust the rates, because we set them in law, every time we want to change the rates, we have to change the law.
Right.
So I think it's something that perhaps we could do, as rates go up, everything goes up with time, right? And we can just have a quick meeting and say, okay, we need to increase the rates, and tow trucks don't want to come out anymore, whatever the case may be. So that's my concern about the actual setting the prices and the fees in the law itself.
Yeah, we did have that discussion with Rich Mitchell, and
Okay.
this was the rate, or not the rate, this was the route that he suggested going forward. There is some built-in room if fuel surges spike, so we were able to approve them charging a fuel surcharge. And then, obviously, if we were deciding to change rates across the board, that would have to go back through the process. So
Any further discussion on this? Anybody have any questions? Want to ask?
I think what I'm asking for this month, sorry, Frank.
It's okay. Well, so the rates you're talking about here are the day rates, $200 for a tow,
Correct,
and $225 at night.
correct.
What if somebody requests somebody else, not the county call?
That doesn't cover. If the driver or the owner or the operator asks for a particular tow company, this no longer applies.
Okay, all right, okay. Because that's, some people, I know I'm a little upset with that. I had my truck stolen and then they charged me $90, you know. So, because that was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago.
Right.
Okay, and I thought that was outrageous, because I know I could have got it for 45.
Right.
Okay, and of course the tow company said, well, I can knock it down to 85. I said, no, I said a few choice words, paid him at $90 a lot. So, but yeah, okay, all right, I understand that, okay.
So, that being said, nobody would be opposed to us changing this to where we set the fees annually, maybe have a meeting and adjust as
Just like
needed.
any fees, right?
Right, just like any other fee, instead of having it written right into the law, because then you're locked in. You know, unless the whole legislature votes to change the law again, you know.
I just happened to think of another. Now, the $200 fee to $225, most times when you're having the towing that we have to do, some of these people, they're never gonna pay that.
Right.
So the county's on the hook for that $200
No.
or,
No, this is the,
I'm just saying, you know,
strictly
because
between the tow operator and the
I mean, the
operator.
sheriff will attest it, you know, if, you know, you got a guy that you picked them up for, you know, DWI or speeding or something like that, and you're gonna tow his vehicle on him, and, because he don't.
Yep.
He's not gonna pay, so
Right.
what difference does it make to him?
No, that leaves it on, it's on the lien holder, the insurance company, whoever's taking responsibility for that vehicle.
Okay, and then the vehicle is kept at the storage place, so
Correct.
the unit is paid.
Correct.
Okay, so you may wind up having vehicles for a long time in some cases.
Yep.
Okay, all right, good enough, all right, thank you.
So I believe what I'm asking for this month is to have the legislature set a public hearing on it at next meeting. Am I saying that right, Phil? Because that's what Rich had said that we were going to need.
You need a resolution setting the date and time of the public hearing. That's what you want this committee to do now or next month?
I was looking for it this month, but it sounds like maybe we'd want to take the pricing, the rate schedule out and put it separately.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to take another look at it and talk to Rich. And, you know, I think there's obviously a need for this to go forward.
Yeah.
We gotta protect people from getting price gouged, like you're saying, and certainly we gotta make sure we have towing available, so we gotta make sure that everything's placed. But I think there might be an easier way to do it in the end. Phil?
Yeah, so if they want to wait, then next month you'd have a resolution setting a time and date for
Okay.
the following month. If there's still stuff that needs to be discussed on this.
Because it will be, so when the legislature approves this, it will probably be at least a month or so after that before we can start putting, at least just to put it into effect, because we need time to,
Certainly.
we gotta roll it out to the tow companies completely. We need to start inspecting vehicles, inspecting locations and stuff along those lines,
And
so.
come up with a sticker or decal or something like you were talking
I
about.
believe the sheriff's office is
Yeah.
working on that right now, but,
Some stuff. To make sure, right?
I can say we've been working on this for 3 years,
yeah.
and it always keeps getting pushed off and pushed off. We need this in place.
Understood.
This is also a half measure. I will say that eventually, we need a rotating list like other counties have. But
Yeah.
right now, this is the best option.
Certainly, I agree with the rotation. It should be some sort of rotation, so that we're not favoring, you know, one guy's right off 81, and he's getting everybody that crashes on 81. It's really a disservice to the other guys around that aren't getting any towing done.
With that being said, though, with
Yeah,
us
there's a
being
big
so spread
discussion
out
like that
across the
before.
county, yeah,
Yeah.
we would run into a major time issue possibly
Right, understood.
with the rotation. So that's
Okay,
what the sheriff and I have gone back and forth discussing that.
all right, so we'll solidify this by next meeting and get
Okay.
something going.
All right, thank you.
Anything else from that one?
I don't believe so, thank you.
All right, let's go on to DAOs. What do you got for us? Anything?
Nothing new, everything's going well. We've got some trials that are scheduled, most of those are getting resolved, we're potentially gonna have a trial starting tomorrow up in Glasgow. We're gonna see, they had an appearance this morning, another person's gonna plead, but for the most part, things are going well, cases are moving. Going well.
An issue came up at a meeting about, do we still do PINs? Persons in need of supervision, is that still a thing?
That's county attorney's office for the juveniles.
Right, right, so that all falls under DSS or
Well, through county attorneys.
county attorney?
Yep.
Okay. All right, very good. But does that still exist, do you know? Because that came up, I thought they did away with that.
I believe they still do. Might have a different name at this point, but it's more of a question for Richie. They
Understood.
basically, under 18, I don't get to touch them.
Somebody brought it up at a caucus
That doesn't
meeting, I was
sound
just
like
wondering if,
DSS does PINs intake. We would supervise them if they're placed on probation, but, there's not, I can't even remember the last time we got a PIN supervision.
so PINs is still a thing, but you're
It's still a
saying
thing,
that
but they just don't
not used anymore.
Part of it is a funding thing because they changed the law, I think about a year ago, 2 years ago, that any kids that are placed for pins, the county has to pay for the entire detention.
We
So,
don't do pins anymore.
well, there you go. That's,
Okay,
That's just a question, right?
yeah, all right, let's move on to the sheriff. What we got, Don, anything exciting? I saw an article that was flashed to me about some prisoners being unhappy about protocol at COVID.
The author of that article, his son happens to be an inmate, an incarcerated individual.
I understand.
We have a bunch of promotions and new hires. That's essentially what we're focusing on right now.
Okay.
Other than that, things are fine.
How's that going? We have enough people, we
Yeah,
were able to find people
Yeah, we have about 12 new deputies, road deputies, and about 12 corrections.
qualified?
Yeah.
Got qualified people. Okay, good. Any questions for the sheriff?
Yeah, but I want, Sheriff, now I go back to Mr. Oaks. Sheriff, at this time, do we keep a positivity rate within the jail as to what positivity rate is?
For COVID?
For COVID, yeah.
No.
And any coming in or within the jail or anything like that, we don't? Okay. Thank you. Can I go to Mr. Oaks now? Because I had a question.
Sure.
And I don't know, probably been discussed before, but I don't know. The bail reform seems to be a big topic right now on social media in the city of Fulton. So I thought I would ask, what are we doing to alleviate the possible problem? I mean, because I understand why the bail reform was put in, because to get a turnover, to get everything, everybody tried and everything else. What are we doing? Because I know that we put on people when I was here before. Has that increased our turnaround to be able to get people in front of the courts, in front of the jail? I don't want them in jail because that's going to cost us a fortune.
Well, sometimes that's where they need to be. Unfortunately, our hands are tied, just like the judges are, Frank. If they qualify for pretrial release, one of the things we've been trying to do is identify those people that we would have wanted in jail to get those cases streamlined and fast-tracked. Again, we just had a case, went to grand jury the week before last. The guy got arrested on a Friday afternoon. Tuesday morning, we were indicting him because he stabbed somebody, and quite frankly, we weren't sure if he was going to get out on bail. Because he had 2 prior felonies, the court that arraigned him had to lock him up. But when he went in front of the judge the following week, we weren't sure what was going to happen. So, like I said, state police, actually legislator Yurn's daughter was involved in that case, did a very nice job, and her investigators. But he got arrested Friday afternoon. By Tuesday morning, he was indicted. And so we've been trying to take those cases where there's violence occurring to have a quick turnaround. But ultimately, what the judges do, again, the judges don't like it any more than we do, Frank.
Okay, I understand, nobody's happy with it. Okay,
Right.
that, it goes all the way around.
Right.
But are misdemeanors, in that case, or are we talking about just felonies? Where are we going to get,
Basically, if they're misdemeanor charges, for the most part, it's catch and release. If there's certain qualifying offenses, if there's mostly domestic violence or sex offenses, misdemeanors, the sheriff's guys, the troopers can bring them in to get them arraigned, but then the court will look at it and say, well, it's a misdemeanor, and most of the time they're getting released on their own recognizance. For most of the felonies, if they're non-violent, they're being released on their own recognizance. Again, it really, the legislature has very much tied our hands to the number of people that can be held. Again, if they're violent acts that are truly violent, they're being held. And again, I include acts of violence, felony sex offenses. But outside of those categories of offenses, they're being released, and we're seeing them again and again. We had a guy last year who was, arrested, I think, 7 different times for felony offenses. They were grand larcenies, forged instrument charges, felony charges. But the courts have looked at nonviolent, released them, and we indicted them. But it takes a while for that process to happen, and things are slowed down in the court system because of COVID, and there's a backlog. I mean, we had a case that was scheduled to go to trial today. The person walked in and pled last Thursday. They got arrested in May of 2020. It was just making its way to the trial calendar this week. And again, they've been out for the last 20 months.
Two points. So the court is deciding if it's a felony charge because it was nonviolent. The judge is deciding, or has he been told that he has to?
Well,
I mean, that's the difference. I mean, if he's being told
right.
if it's a nonviolent crime, and you have to release them, you cannot hold them, you cannot put a bail on them, that's different than the court's deciding to let them go.
Right.
And what has changed since then than it was 5 years ago?
Really is taking away the judge's ability to look at that individual defendant to say, what's an appropriate bail for this person? So Kevin Pooley ends up in front of me, sorry Kevin. 5 years ago, we could have looked at Kevin and say, okay, Kevin's got a felony history. Kevin's gone to state prison before, he's got acts of violence. He's failed to show up for court before, he's had warrants before. Based on all the circumstances unique to Kevin, we're going to set bail, this is the amount. The courts have been stripped of that discretion. The rigor in the law was they can't consider the strength of the evidence, which used to be one of the factors we look at. Look, if we have video evidence, eyewitnesses, and admission, the judge would say, yeah, he's presumed innocent. There's a hell of a lot of evidence here to hold him. The court can't even get into that analysis now. They can't get into the prior history of not showing up. They can if it relates to this particular case, but on the day that he gets arraigned, he has no history related to this case. So really, and in the courts, when I say their hands are tied, the judges who are arraigning them at cap court, the city court judges during the day, even once they're arraigned, the indictment's filed and it goes up before the two county court judges. They may want to set bail, but they're basically, if they follow the CPL, and they can't. And what they're being told is they have to look at the least restrictive conditions possible. So, and most of the time that's, okay, even if we're doing something other than releasing you under cognizance, well, that's pre-trial release, or pre-trial release with electronic monitoring. It's very few instances where they're actually being put in jail.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right. Any other questions for anybody else? I think Phil has something.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank EMO. They've had some extra work put on them with mask and test kit distributions. The state Homeland Security Commissioner has sort of taken, or when masks and test kits became available, it started to go through emergency management rather than health to alleviate health. I just want to thank you and Shane and Buildings and Grounds. You put together great plans. Very often we're shorted by what we're told we're going to get from the state, or vendors are back ordered. So the distribution plans, I know it takes a while to do and carry out. And you're just doing a great job, you and B&G and Shane, putting all this together. Thank you.
You're welcome. We did fight for what we got shorted, and we got a notice before we got here that we're going to get it.
Good. Yeah.
So I feel better about that.
Any unfinished business? For the appropriate motion.
Motion adjourned.